Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
Facebook on Tuesday held its F8 developer conference, and one of the biggest announcements out of the whole show was the availability of the Oculus Quest.
Yes.
And unlike the higher-end Oculus Rift, this is a full standalone version that doesn't require a PC or cables. Basically, it's just the headset. It's just the remote controls. It's relatively portable. And our own Scott Stein got to try it out. And he was so impressed by its portability, he took it on vacation to Aruba with his family. I'm sure his wife loved that. But he came away really impressed by this. Really called this sort of the next wave of VR. And I think he means this not necessarily because of the innovations behind it, but the fact that it's a lot more low maintenance than the older systems.
Right. So apparently the graphics, because it's only got a mobile chip in it, the graphics really aren't actually that good. But to me, these are some obvious changes that needed to happen for VR to actually get closer to the mainstream. When we had VR start coming into this office, there was all this effort that we had to do just to get it on your head and get it set up. And the games were fun, but after a while, it just kind of like became like chunky or too much work, whatever.
Yep.
So to me, this does make a lot of sense. This is kind of the direction that I think VR does need to go into.
$400 still seems like a decent amount of money, but when you compare it to sort of the history and the legacy of how much you've had to spend on a full-fledged VR system, including the PC, it's actually a pretty good deal. There are obviously some limitations, like you said, because it's a mobile chip. It doesn't run all the games that are available for the Rift system. There are, I think, 50 games to start on the system, and hopefully Oculus and Facebook builds out this ecosystem.
Yeah, you're going to get, it's a little more Nintendo, a little less PlayStation, I would probably say, from a graphics perspective.
I think that's a great analogy. Facebook had a ton more news. As expected, the company shifted its focus to messaging and privacy. Zuck called the future private. He even made it was an awkward joke saying that he's aware that the company doesn't have the strongest reputation for privacy, and he said this with a really awkward grin. I wasn't sure if he was trying to make a joke.
He was trying to make a joke.
It fell flat.
It didn't land because Facebook is the poster child for what's wrong with tech these days.
Right.
Stop being glib. Don't make jokes about it. It's just it didn't. It fell flat in a room where there were a lot of people that wanted to laugh at Zuckerberg's jokes. That's why they're there at the conference in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And look, they had a slew of announcements. They talked about a new interface for Facebook that's a little bit clearer, a little bit less about blasting information and more about sort of your connections. They talked about key additions to messaging to make WhatsApp more compatible with Facebook Messenger. There's even a dating service that they've rolled out internationally, but is coming out here, which I'm a little bit skeptical about.
This is a super weird concept where basically I think there are other dating websites. I got married before dating websites really took off.
Yep.
I'm not trying to show off. And
I didn't need a dating site.
Right. But the idea is that you say who you have a crush on, and if they also said that they have a crush on you, then it kind of gets revealed.
Right.
Which on Facebook seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
Seems a little creepy, but okay.
And in this era where we really have trust issues with Facebook, like, do we really want to give up even more data?
Yeah, you want to like secretly say who you have a crush on. Yeah, this
Could you
might not be a
imagine
good
the hack
idea.
for this? Like,
Don't even get me
there's
started.
a data breach, and
Nope.
like basically all these crushes get revealed. Oh,
Stop.
It's like high school all over again.
It's a really bad idea. I'm already blushing.
All right, so let's talk about Apple. The company posted its fiscal second quarter results yesterday, which actually better than expected, right? Most people expected the iPhone sales to tank, which they did. They did do pretty badly, but it seems like Apple stock is up.
Apple stock is up because this is how Wall Street works, is that it's all an expectations game. Right. So, and if you listen to the call, this is one of those reality distortion field types of things where Apple made it seem like everything is going great, even though revenue was down, profits were down, iPhone sales were down, but there are certain areas of the company that are showing really strong signs of growth. That's specifically wearables, their services business. So there are obvious signs why you would want to buy it.
With wearables, obviously they just announced an update to their AirPods, right? Like I'm sure that helped a lot.
They said that those sales are going gangbusters. It's a cultural phenomenon, I think, is what Tim Cook said.
Really? He called the AirPods a cultural phenomenon?
Yes.
That's all right. That's something.
It's Apple.
And surprisingly, iPads did well.
Yeah, that was due to iPad Pro sales.
Which is, I mean, that's still surprising to me. I mean, iPads have been kind of they've been easy to kind of dump on for a while.
So, okay, these are all very good points. However, I quote an e-marketer analyst in my story that say all of these businesses, they rely on iPhone sales. So
Yeah.
if the iPhone sales are down, then those other businesses, maybe they're going to do well in the short term, but ultimately there's a bit of a trouble there.
Interesting. There's like a ripple effect down the line.
It could in effect end up impacting those businesses. Yeah.
All right, for more of these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening. I was really into that discussion, though.
Yeah, whatever. We go over a lot.
There you go. Yeah, it's usually about a minute and a half.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
at
thanks
least we
everybody
weren't
for
just
joining
wasting
us for the
time.
recording of the audio podcast. You can subscribe to that using the links in the description below. But right now, we want to hear your questions and comments. What was your takeaway from F8? Do you think Zuckerbot actually presented a endearing case about the new privacy settings that we're allegedly going to see roll out on Facebook? Are you excited about the Oculus Quest? What is your preferred method of VR or AR? Go ahead and chime in the comments, and we'll take one right now off the gate from Timothy. He asks, I'm curious, who is the target audience for Oculus? The average consumer doesn't have enough exposure to it. What do you guys take on that?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's definitely more tech enthusiasts and not necessarily the hardcore ones that jumped on board immediately with VR. I think it's folks who are, looking for a different form of entertainment, have a little bit of extra disposable income, and is savvy with tech. There's a large kind of middle ground of folks who aren't quite those hardcore, must have the very first bit of technology customers that went in with the original Oculus Rift, right? So they're trying to make this more mainstream, and I acknowledge that this is not mainstream by any stretch, but
It's closer.
it's getting closer to that mainstream level.
Next question is coming in from God Bless India. What do you think about the F8 privacy statements overall?
Okay, we didn't get to this on the show, even though we were already over our time. But my central concern with all this talk about privacy and groups and messaging is that Facebook's primary product is still the news feed.
Yeah.
So what are they going to kill that off? This is the way that people engage with Facebook on a regular basis.
Right.
So trying to convince, what is it, more than 2 billion people now to
Almost 2.4.
you're going to shift all those folks that have been used to for years doing the news feed and sharing and
Right.
kind of like that is what Facebook is associated
Right.
with. I think that's either going to be a multi-year project or this is just lip service. Maybe I'm being hard on them,
No.
but that's hard for me to understand.
I think it's a valid concern. The reaction I got from a lot of folks in the investment community was he laid out this kind of grand plan for us to have more private spaces, but he didn't really lay out how this would work from a business perspective. Like how would they actually make money from any of this? And that is reason to be skeptical that some of this stuff, this might be a grand plan for many, many years from now and may not be executed fully.
Or it's a different service.
Right.
That's the thing, is that when I want to do private messaging with my friends,
Yeah.
I use WhatsApp, which is a Facebook service.
Right,
I
but it
don't
is
think-
and encrypted, and I think that's. I think one of the things they're trying to do, one of the announcements was basically opening up WhatsApp to some of the other messaging services, having that kind of cross-platform interaction. Facebook has talked about sort of the marketplace and the commerce opportunities from being able to use that platform to sell things. And so maybe that is sort of the revenue driver, but it's a really small business right now. It's nowhere near
and
the
it
ad
has been
business
for
that they have.
years.
Right. So
Yeah.
maybe that's something they're going to try to push forward a little bit more. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot to be skeptical about right now because it's so far afield from its core business that it's hard to see how they can make that shift without real ramifications for its results.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious that Zuckerberg knew what the right things to say were.
Oh, yeah.
You're not
Oh,
going to get up on stage and say, "Hey, I think people should be sharing more publicly." that's so tone deaf at this point. But
Well, and also, you're right. Some of this might be lip service. I mean, at least off the bat, it's clearly he's saying what he needs to say. We don't necessarily know if it's going to hold true. But yeah, he's got governments all around the world looking at tighter regulations, looking at regulating what the content is that shows up on Facebook's platform. So, he had to say what he had to say, but we'll see if he'll follow through with it.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Who are the audiences for F8 these days? Is it mainly devs and reporters, or do you think the average consumer actually cares?
I don't think the average consumer cares. I mean, this is not a service that like you need to sign up for, that you need to pay for. It's not like an Apple event where you get a product. F8 is, first and foremost, it's a developer conference. It's for developers. It's for folks looking to use that platform to make money, to sell ads, whatever. Obviously, as journalists, we want to cover it. So I don't know if they're necessarily speaking to us, but I think this time around they were speaking to us. They were speaking to governments, to regulators. But really, at its core, it's still a developers conference.
Yeah.
How will Facebook incorporate Oculus into their platform?
Ooh, good question. They've talked about it in the past of using virtual reality as like as the next evolution of social networking, of communicating with each other.
Right. Doing meetings.
Yeah, having those kind of video
connecting with
chat,
people.
those VR chat experiences. They didn't talk as much about that this time. I think they've kind of backed away from Oculus and from VR as a big focal point. I think this year was all about privacy. It was all about sort of fixing the mess and Oculus, because VR.
Which, by the way, that was the message last year.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear about that. Is that they said we're going to fix the mess last year, and I don't think that it's gotten any better. Maybe
Nope.
it's gotten worse.
Nope. And yeah, so I think look, VR has sort of taken a backseat to other technologies after like years of hype, and so similarly, I think Oculus has kind of taken a backseat. It's a little bit lower priority in Facebook's got bigger fish to fry at this point. They've got bigger problems to address.
That being said, I think if you look at how they presented Oculus Quest,
Yeah.
it's that one's presented for gamers. It's its own self-contained world,
Right.
And it's a much more polished VR product. I don't think at this point they were really pushing including it in the Facebook world.
Yeah.
As opposed to like one of their other pieces of hardware, Facebook Portal,
Right.
which they slapped the name Facebook on.
Yep.
So maybe they're going to let Oculus kind of be Oculus at this point.
That said, this is I think one of the, I don't know the first, but it's close to one of the first like core products from Oculus that's like under the direction of Facebook, right? And I think it has some of Facebook's fingerprints on it, right? The fact that it is more accessible, right? It's standalone, it's simpler. I think those are the bits of Facebook that are probably in it. But whether or not you're comfortable with that idea, that it's Facebook's Oculus as opposed to an Oculus Rift, that's really up to you.
Do you think Oculus will be used in the hospital industry?
That's a
For,
good
like,
question.
training?
Maybe for training or for research.
Yeah, I mean, more often than not, when we talk about AR and VR, because it's so new, training gets thrown around a lot. I don't see a lot of that actually being utilized in practice. A lot of it is just exploration at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to bet there are hospitals out there that use VR now, sort of a one-off thing, but it's used sparingly, and it is an experiment at this point. It's really just what can we do with VR as opposed to it being a core part of any hospital or any doctor's regular schedule, regular day.
Yeah.
Do you think Facebook will come out with their own news outlet to compete with the others in an effort to decrease fake news?
No.
No.
Nope.
I mean, they talked about the need to partner with legitimate news outlets. I don't like in terms of creating their own news service to compete with.
That would be very dangerous for them. I don't
think they want to be in that position either.
A Facebook News or a Facebook News Plus, whatever the hell you want to call it, I think would be dead in the water in the market. I mean, we said the Portal would be dead in the water, and they still continue to advertise for it. So
I see those Neil Patrick Harris commercials.
I just saw the Neil Patrick Harris commercials.
And I'm just sort of like, okay, it's still a thing.
So
okay.
that's the thing, is that apparently the hardware is unique enough and the camera is good enough that they did manage to differentiate the product. But I don't think that it's been a particularly strong seller for them.
I still don't know who would buy that thing.
I mean, like,
Neil
we're
Patrick
sitting
Harris.
here telling people don't buy it.
Yeah.
But whatever. The people that do own it apparently like it a lot. And,
So there you go.
Good for them.
Facebook News seems like it'd be redundant and also would almost be instantly just panned and brushed off maybe by by the average audience, I would feel.
I mean, you could argue that its news feed is already sort of a semblance of Facebook News, right? There are algorithms that kind of shove things into your face and your
Right,
feed.
but it's been infiltrated, clearly.
Yes, yeah. But I think that's also evidence as to why like a formal Facebook News service just probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, how exactly would they protect that any better than they've already protected the regular newsfeed wall? Next question. Tim says, you live by the phone sales and you die by the phone sales. What do you think Apple will do to concentrate on their core sales in their new diverse folio?
Okay, so if the rumors are to be believed of that 3-camera array on the new iPhone 11,
Right.
I think those are so ugly. But, Apple has convinced people of other
More cameras,
things.
though.
It is more cameras.
People are going to look at that like, well, that's a whole nother camera.
You know what I'm talking about. It's this like hideous
Yes.
box
Yeah.
of cameras.
I mean, the thing is, I've seen them on other phones, so it's not that surprising.
I think Samsung did a better job. They have 3 cameras and they
Like
do
in
an
a
array.
line. Yeah. I believe the Huawei one, there's a couple that have like the box form. And I think Samsung even does in one of its phones.
Okay. I guess if it already exists, it seems so ugly to me. I kind of feel like the iPhone integrated the cameras in a little bit better in other designs, but I guess Apple, like every single time we watch these events, they talk about the camera so often because the camera is one of the last things that they really have to show off to say, like, if you buy the new one, it's going to have an additional camera lens on it. So otherwise, what exactly are they offering?
They're just going to keep jacking the price up, I guess.
That is exactly what we're expecting. Yeah, for sure. But hey, it's a good day for Apple. The stock is up 7% right now. Guidance was better than expected. Revenue was better than expected. Profit was better than expected. But it's they still have to figure out a way to convince people to buy new iPhones, and I think that's a lot more difficult than convincing people to buy AirPods because a lot of people still don't have AirPods, even though you wouldn't know that from walking around New York City.
True.
I like this comment from DeMonte. It says, camera shouldn't be the focus of the phone. It should be the software. I agree. I think the whole camera thing is just a lot of like fluff and, smoke and mirrors.
Well,
because,
look,
I mean, so many people like give them more lenses and cameras and suddenly everybody's a professional photographer and it's like, great, another picture of your breakfast.
I mean, look, I'll say this. It's like for my wife, for a lot of people I know, the camera is the big selling point for it. They want to take photos of their kids, their things, food, whatever. It is a huge deal. Don't get me wrong. Like, software obviously is the experience is critical to this phone, but if you want to get someone to buy one of your phones, you talk about the camera. You don't talk about the software, especially for normal folks and for average folks. Yeah, there are more tech savvy folks out there who care about the way the software is optimized or the user interface. But for a lot of folks, it really comes down to like, can I afford it, and does it take good photos?
Yeah, I mean, we do live in that Instagram world these days where everything's got to be picture perfect at all times. But I don't know, like I feel like it's still kind of one of those things that might fade out over time. Like the novelty will wear off sooner or later. Don't get me wrong. The technology of the cameras is nothing to sneeze at. It's impressive across the board, but it's also kind of, in my eyes, a bit of a training wheels or a crutch, just because everybody and their brother just wants to take nice pictures. But honestly, that's a skill that you could have developed, but instead they just, put filters on it.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I think the idea, like, I appreciate what Roger's saying too, in that as far as a selling point, it's got a better camera system or it's got more lenses it's a much easier sell than, hey, we improved Face ID or we have wireless charging where you can charge another phone with this thing. I mean, like, those are fun. Those are nice to have. But I do think that the expectations game with cameras continues to, that's what they've been leveling up a lot more because, like, what are you going to do better than an OLED screen?
Yeah.
So, or, we're going to add a little bit more storage or we're going to make the processor a little faster. Like, those are...
Yeah, a faster processor at this point is kind of moot. Like, yeah, it's going to get faster, but you're not really going to experience the benefits of it. It's fast enough, frankly.
So 5G it's a good time to mention 5G. We've got Roger
surprisingly,
here.
You're the one who brought it up.
It's when we're talking about, okay, what's going to justify a new phone purchase? 5G would. Absolutely. If you could convince people that this is going to be much better for them and it's actually worth it to spend an additional $10 a month doing it, that could obviously spark a lot more phone sales.
Absolutely. Well, I think once the coverage gets better and the array of devices available, keep in mind we're not expecting a 5G iPhone this year. So if you were, just sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Once 5G becomes more prevalent and when it's sort of out there, yeah, that's definitely going to be a factor for a lot of folks.
What about more notches?
Yes.
You need
yes.
more notches.
Notches on the bottom, notches on the top, notches on the side, notches everywhere.
The whole thing needs to be notches.
Right?
Introducing the iPhone 11 all notch edition.
So I feel like we got away from Facebook, and PVG, I sent you that tweet that I want to share with the audience. Can we go back to that? Because
let's go ahead and go to the videotape here.
This is so cringy.
Alfred had the great instinct yesterday to ping me right in the middle of the keynote as I'm recording it and streaming it here on CNET. And he's like, can you grab me at like 12 minutes and something odd seconds and just pull this clip? It's real short. And I sent it to him and he tweeted it out and something magical happened. Here.
I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now to...
What?
Put it lightly.
Hang on, back to
exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now to...
That's weird.
No, it's a conspiracy.
Put it lightly.
That actually works.
I know that we don't...
And just crickets, man. Just friggin'
And
crickets.
that's a sympathetic audience.
I know.
That's a sympathetic audience. But they don't want to. It's.
Well, no one's gonna laugh at that. For one, it's just he shouldn't have made. Look, I think there's also an element to it where I think Zuck, in his awkward way, was trying to get a point across, and then like
make a joke about it.
I don't know if it was like a nervous reaction or something, but I imagine like the way it was scripted in the presentation, that wasn't a joke, and like the way it came out as a joke, and it was just fell flat.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good example of kind of where we are with Facebook right now.
Yep.
They just really do not have a lot of political capital. Zuckerberg doesn't have much to stand on.
Completely out of touch.
It does feel out of touch, but let's remember, this is still a massive company. Zuckerberg's still one of the richest people. Facebook's not going away anytime soon.
And
so
look,
they have an opportunity to turn this around.
And for all the doom and gloom talk, I mean, profits are up. Its user base is growing still. It's at, like I said, nearly 2.4 billion monthly active users. That's like a third of the world.
Right. So people are not fleeing from Facebook at all.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely have a lot of opportunity to shift.
Yep.
And they're a much bigger company than they used to be. So that shift is going to take a long time. But insofar as them saying the right stuff, that like, hey, we need to focus more on privacy and maybe not just share everything willy-nilly.
Right.
You know, that's a good thing.
Let me just say this, though. As sharp as Alfred's instincts were in rolling this out, I think his name is John. Let me look. No, David Herman did one up just a touch here.
I think I know where we're going.
Yeah.
I know that we don't exactly have the strongest reputation on privacy right now to put it lightly.
So yeah, that absolutely made my day, and I'm only praying that we don't get a content strike on
Yeah, I
that,
know.
or a copyright strike.
You
for
did
doing
that.
But
You
come
did that
on,
for like 2 seconds. You're okay.
It doesn't even matter anymore. But yeah, bravo, David Herman. I kicked myself all night for not thinking to do that before you did.
Well played.
Well done.
All right, we got just a few minutes left, so let's knock out a few more questions as they're still flooding in. R. Wallop asks, is Facebook Portal end-to-end encryption? I don't think they stated nor emphasized it when they talked about privacy.
I don't know.
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. We'll look into that.
Honestly, the only one that they really talk about with end-to-end encryption as it stands today is WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And I think they're moving Facebook Messenger to end-to-end encryption if they haven't already.
They haven't, but they definitely have said that that's on the roadmap.
Combining in again with Facebook and Oculus, do you think Facebook will partner with other gaming manufacturers like Razer to advertise the Oculus potential?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think Oculus will. I don't know about Facebook per se. Like the Oculus unit will probably have plenty of partnerships. I think they're partnering with Valve as well. So yeah, I think they're going to try to reach out to folks in the gaming community because that's sort of like the core audience, right?
Yeah. Victor says, wasn't there something like this before with Facebook where you had coins and your friends were linked and you'd swipe left or right and it was like a third-party app, but it was in Facebook. I think he's talking about like the whole dating or the friend tiering stuff they're kind of doing these days. I don't recall this. Do you?
I don't recall. Are you talking about for the dating app, or are you talking about just for the coin thing? Throws me off. I don't remember the coin thing.
I only remember like there was coins or something with the marketplace. Isn't that what they're
There's a marketplace for sure.
To?
No, I'm not sure about
yeah.
that. And if it's related to the dating stuff, they talked about the dating app or like the dating feature a while ago, and then it never really launched. So I guess they're still
it did
sticking
launch.
with it.
The dating app did
launch
launch overseas. It's like in Brazil and Singapore and like I think 2 other countries.
Okay.
It's coming to the U.S. later this year, so you look out for that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a particularly good idea, especially
I'm just
if they're-
I'm just glad I'm married.
Yeah.
Michael Brown says, is Messenger going to be the messaging platform to finally compete against iMessage on Android?
Ooh, I don't know.
Wait until I/O.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Google has thrown so many different messaging efforts at the wall and then like gotten rid of them. But before we answer that question, I am curious to see what Google presents at I/O next week.
Well, last year, didn't they talk about the RCS, the Rich Communication System, the sort of enhanced text message system, as they're like, that's going to be their messaging, their iMessage, not killer, but their version of iMessage.
You would think iMessage would be pretty easy to replicate, but apparently not.
Yeah.
WhatsApp, to me, is close enough.
Well, part of the problem is Apple. I mean, the advantage is Apple owns the hardware and the software, right? So they control everything. Google does not do that, right?
Right, which makes it a little more complicated.
All right, still great questions flooding in. Victor did come back around full circle to specify the dating app. That coin thing, there's something buzzing in the back of my head about that, but I don't fully recall it. But we'll have to look that up and kind of come back to that, because I'm sure we'll have more information about this dating app going forward. But we are out of time, but closing thought, I swear to God, we should just hire Michael Brown to give us closing thoughts on the
Michael
regular.
Brown.
Do you all think you will get back to Facebook if the platform properly refocuses itself as a private focused social network?
Great question.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think that these are lofty goals, and we're not going to see the effects of any of these changes for a while. So it's kind of, for me, it's kind of moot.
It is moot for me too, partly because the joy or enthusiasm I may have had for sharing stuff with a large group of people from like a friends and family basis kind of died a couple of years ago. I don't really do that as much anymore.
I rarely ever share things unless
you do way more than I do.
I mean, I share stories and I share like articles, stuff from work, but for family stuff, I mean, I think you're in that friend group, but I share to like a limited number of folks. So I don't do.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
hey,
you're
cool.
welcome, man. You're in that exclusive.
Hey,
club.
man.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool.
There you go.
So yeah, most of the sharing that I do is through Twitter, and it's very like work focused.
Yes.
Like follow me to see tech news and Amazon stuff, and like I'm not going to tell you when I ate avocado toast. Like it's just I don't think people are following me for that.
Yesterday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, that did happen. So, but yeah, anyway, that is kind of sad for Facebook, I guess, that they're going to put all this effort in and not going to get me and you back. But whatever. I guess they're not going to be that upset.
I don't think they're going to be upset.
They're really missing out, guys. I don't know. I think that if they could clean that place up, I would be excited to go back, because it was a nice way to interact with friends I've lost touch with, or were just other places in the globe. I enjoyed the platform for what it was for the longest time, and it just became so toxic that I had to step away. But ironically, every time we do one of these F8 streams or something like that, I have to log back in, redo my account and the whole thing, just so that we can stream, or have to like pick up, because it carried on Facebook that we restreamed yesterday onto YouTube and etc. So yeah, I was just like, oh, this cesspool.
And by the way, they're still tracking you, even though you.
I know.
Account.
I don't care. I just at this point,
Read CNN.
I just don't want to see some of the stuff that gets sent and shared and said.
Yeah, it's stuff that really is designed to make you angry, and it's
Yeah.
just not great. It's not great for your mental health.
Exactly, and that's why I step away. If they could find a way to clean it up, make it nice and friendly again, I would be back on board. I could use another excuse to waste more time at work.
That's good to know.
Yeah. But on that note, we are out of time. Thanks, everybody. Great questions and comments. We'll be back tomorrow. Roger, get us out of here.
Yeah, the 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, FeedBurner, Stitcher, Google Play, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. See y'all tomorrow.
Bye, folks.
Later.